Welcome everybody to Flagship's first security webinar series. Here we are on April 15th. What this year used to be tax day, but has been extended based on the circumstances we have going on in the world today. Hopefully that will benefit everybody. Today's security webinar series has to do with ensuring the productivity and security of your remote workforce. Many of you, I'm sure, are going through or have gone through a transition of moving many of your workforce out to being remote, and that in itself can pose lots of security problems. So we're here to talk to you about that today. Before we get into that detail, however, I just want to talk to you a little bit about who Flagship Solutions Group is. You may or may not have heard about us, but we're located out of Boca Raton, Florida, and we cover pretty much customers all around the country. At the core of us is we're a services company, and by that I mean that we deliver services to clients. We do deliver solutions, products, and software solutions as well, but for the most part, we deliver services around those products. You can see there on the screen that we are an IBM business partner. At the core of everything that we deliver is IBM. We are very, very IBM centric. We're very close to IBM. We resell their products. We complement their products with our services, and so on. Some of our core values, honesty, integrity. We're very client centric. We believe in client first always. We try to understand what our clients' needs are, what their challenges are, and go and customize those solutions around those specific needs that our clients have. Innovation, we're constantly working with IBM, following many of their innovations over the years and the patents that they've come out with, record patents for many, many years now. And we tailor our services and solutions around those innovative things that IBM's doing. Passion, like I said, we're a very services-oriented company. We love what we do. We are reactive. We are proactive. We jump on our customers' needs first, and that's what we do. We have a very strong commitment to excellence. It's a continual process. As you know, we have to constantly change and re-innovate ourselves to handle some of the market changes and needs, more so now today than ever. I also want to mention that we were always born a remote company, so Flagship moving to remote was not really a big transition at all for us, because most of our personnel and resources are spread around the country. We are remote. We've used Zoom and WebEx and tools of that nature for many, many years, and so it's not abnormal for us to do that. So we built our company from the ground up, being remote. So that's not a big deal for us. Just another chart on our managed services options. We work with our customers. I call this little chart a continuum. Our customers have a relationship with us on many areas of this continuum, different steps of the continuum. We help our customers with tasks. We provide professional services. Perhaps it's a little bit of staff augmentation. Perhaps it's call us when you need it. I call that by the drink, kind of hourly support contracts. And then, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, where some clients have said, hey, I don't want to really be in the IT infrastructure business anymore, or a certain software solution, I need you, Flagship, to put this together and do it for me. And anywhere in between that, I mean, we'll host servers, we'll manage servers, we'll manage cloud environments, multi-cloud environments. We're really, really good at IBM environments, of course, because we're an IBM partner, but we do manage the multi-cloud environments too, and the software solutions that go on top of that. Why us? One, because we believe in building long-term relationships with our clients. When we engage and develop a relationship with you, we need to understand, where you are, where you need to go, and we're not here for that one little transaction and then we disappear. We're here for the long haul, and we want to. Basically, what I constantly tell my team is, we want to earn the right to do more with you. And by the way that we do that is we provide great service, and hopefully you will see the value in that and want us to do more. So if you do good with one thing, you can get more work, and we hope that you would see that, and that's the way that we operate. We offer, I already mentioned, the variable support levels, and we try to make things simpler for you, especially with working with a big company like IBM. Working with a big company like that, the good news is there's lots of solutions, there's lots of innovations, there's lots of aspects to what IBM is developing and how that fits your needs. The bad news is there's lots of solutions and lots of complexity there. So we try to put some simplification to that and bring you that value. One of the adages that we use that sometimes gets a laugh is we bring the best of IBM to you and we shield you from the worst. And that's what we try to do. So with that, I am going to turn this over to my brother over at Tech Data. His name is Frank Welder. We work with Frank and Tech Data. Tech Data is actually our distributor, where we get the IBM products from, software products as well as hardware products and whatnot. But in addition, Tech Data brings us some expertise in different solution areas. So today we invited Frank to join us, and that's actually a picture of me and Frank. Frank, I'll let Frank, if he wants to explain where that is and what we were engaged in there, he can do that. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Frank, to take us through the solution set, and then we'll circle back to me for a little Q&A and some offers we want to make to everyone who has participated in this call. So Frank, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Tom, where do I even start with a great picture like that? Geez, thanks so much for sharing. I had thought for sure that picture was dead, gone, never to be seen again, and yet there it is. Thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Right, that was a wonderful thing. Thanks, Tom. Hey, so let's have a great time today, right? I am Frank Welder, and I'm coming to you live from my social distant domain. I'm a full-time RVer, been doing it for the last 6 years, absolutely love it. And in this whole work remotely, check, right? Been doing that for 15 years, and socially distant, check, right? I'm in the RV at a campground and there's nobody else around. I love it. So the remote employees got this thing covered to be able to do that. And today, this is a great conversation, and this is the premise I'm going to be working from. I just want to share it with you as part of this thing, right? Whether your organization, your company was or is an expert at being able to support the remote employees, or kind of like, oh gosh, if I don't hang the essential tag on them, now all of a sudden this person is going to have to come to the office, right? How do I make them a remote employee, right? So there was a scramble associated with that. And I kind of equate it to this thing. If you thought buying and searching for toilet paper has been difficult, try buying a new laptop today. Go ahead, go out there. No, not right now, right? But go out there and see if you can't get one and have a delivery date in less than a month, right? Or corporate IT is out there struggling trying to find these things, right? So unless your users are already set up, laptop or mobile users associated with that, there might have been there's maybe some challenges associated with it. And I was kind of like, gosh, wouldn't it be just all funny as all get out if the newly remote user that you turned off into the markets, turned out into the workforce last week or the week before last, is now accessing your corporate email on an iPad provided by your kid's school, right? Think about that for a second. So the whole job that we want to be able to focus on today, at the end of our discussion today, is I want you to be able to think about how IBM's offering can be a tool to help you support all these different types of devices to provide a secure work environment, secure and managed work environment for your newly remote employees. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right, as part of this thing. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully I'm sharing the big screen over here and got all these things going on, right? So what from an IBM offering for the Unified Endpoint Management, we really want to be, the goal is and empower the IT teams to really enable and secure endpoints, right? And it's not just mobile endpoints, it is all types of endpoints associated with that. And that's what I really want to be able to show off today. And users and everything in between using artificial intelligence or AI to do it, right? Insights and analytics and all these other things to make that thing work out so much better. So, because if we think about the way traditional mobile device management solutions were built for a very simpler time, right? Oh, you want to be able to check your email, maybe get access to an application? Great, let me do some mobile device management, MDM type solution to be able to do with this. Our IT leaders today are like, we got bigger ambitions associated with that. Let's talk about some of those bigger ambitions and what they look like, right? Unified Endpoint Management takes mobile device management, MDM, to a whole new level, right? We want to be able to make sure that we can manage a broader range of endpoints as part of our Unified Endpoint Management. So one of the very important things we're going to talk about, we're going to get on this one today, is not just the smartphones and the tablets associated with this. I want to take traditional laptops, PCs, kiosks. I want them to be part of the devices I manage in my Unified Endpoint Management environment. Also wearables, right? Think about the wearables, right? You have your even inside your organization today, right? They're connecting their smart things on their wrists back into corporate email and applications and updates associated with that. And then here's the big one. Here's the imploder, the exploder associated with that is I want to be able to also take a look and manage my IoT devices in this area, right? Think about your IoT devices, right? You got a Windows front end out there collecting IoT data, right? You got an Android device that is an IoT sensor associated with that. They're just little computers that need to be managed associated with it. Let's get it into this entire thing, right? So I got devices and things covered as part of what we're doing as part of MaaS360. I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to be Captain Obvious on this one, and at the end of our presentation, I'm going to go through and here are the devices, what you can manage with them, how they look and interact with that, right? But we'll get down that path there. We'll get there in a bit here, right? The next part of our little pyramid here is I also need to be able to manage applications, apps, and content associated with that, right? I always think of the pharmaceutical folks, right? That when they first came out with iPads for their folks, they wanted to do training associated with that. They wanted to make sure the content was always fresh on that. We were writing applications to be able to update and manage all that content was always the newest stuff associated with it. But applications, right? How do we get access to the back end ones, as well as we start talking about these applications, one of the things that's very important associated with this is the application catalog, right? Sometimes our users may not be aware of which applications they have access to or approved to be able to help them work in their environment. And then the next thing is these devices and these applications, this content, guess what? People use them. I know, shocker, Captain Obvious just talked about how people are using this piece of content associated with it as well, right? Well, it is, right? And I want to make sure that I'm managing the people, but I'm also managing the identities associated with this. I want to make sure that when Frank Walter uses his biometric on his laptop or his phone, it interfaces and works and does this frictionless connection and things like that, right? So I want to make sure I have people and identities that are managed as part of this. But there's this one other thing that we think might be important when we start talking about our unified endpoint management. And so again, let's just go ahead and devices and things, got it, right? Apps and content, got it. We got to be able to have those things, and people and identity associated with that. But now we're going to ask our support teams, our IT management teams, our device management teams, our endpoint management teams to be able to look at this. I say, I want to bring all this stuff in and help them be smarter and better at managing and using this type of environment. And so what happens in a lot of these cases is we might be losing insight. Right, so if we got, so let's be able to manage it, but also let's just do some insight associated with it. IT and security needs to understand what happened, what can we do, what should be done in the context of their environment, not in the context of what the manufacturer or the device thinks it should be associated with that. So we want to make sure we can provide the right platform to give IT leaders the power to unleash that type of business potential. And here's what we really mean when we say, let's take this unified endpoint management thing and add IBM's or the Watson component to this, right? I want to make sure that I can have our users and management environment, instead of digging through news blogs and randomly searching for stuff, I want to be alerted with insights and news, right? It's like, hey, we noticed that we have 6 devices in our environment that are missing this this patch, which covers this CVE for the applications you're using, right? I don't want to have to go search for that. I want to be alerted that this is already happening. I don't want to have to, I like learning, but I really want to be able to understand how knowledge is served to me instead of having to search and find that thing out, right? I want to be able to get understanding of the different types of recommendations, right? So what should be my best practice? Well, here's a best practice or an MDA or a policy for being able to manage Windows devices in this type of environment, or an IoT device in this. And then I want to be able to take action very quickly associated with that. Here's the recommendation. If you want to implement it, click this to be able to review and then publish as a policy, right? So this all falls into this, right? Being able to, and there's a thing associated with it. I want to discover, I want to define, assess, and then act upon that. Right? I don't want that to be a separate process. I want to be integrated in the type of work that we're doing in this environment, right? So what we think that fits at the top of this pyramid is cognitive, right? This whole cognitive, being able to define, assess, discover, and act upon that, right? And it applies across all of those other things, whether it's a person or an identity is misconfigured or has been failed logins, or whether an application needs to be updated, or something needs to be updated on the device in particular, right? So we want to tie together this endpoint management, unified endpoint management with AI. This is what we think we get. So there's a quote from one of our customers, right? It's a great differentiator, MaaS360 with Watson. Real-time analytics based upon the information that we provided, and helps us understand the evolving threats so I can act upon those evolving threats, right? So great quote. Thanks to the customer for being able to do that. We'd like to be able to do that for your environment as well, right? So let's break that pyramid chart out to just a little bit different, all right, different view, right? We want to be able to help you as your organization, position the cognitive approach to this as the trusted advisor. Automated intelligence and cognitive computing tied together, right? Actionable insights. We observed this. We think you might do this associated with it, and here's how it's being used, and apply it across everything within this. Our competitors may say they offer products and features to manage and secure the bottom 2 rows in this diagram, all right? But they don't. Especially if they don't support older versions of Windows, right? Think about your corporate environment today. Are we all done using Windows 7? Has everybody migrated to Windows 10, right? Is some still using Windows 8, right? So we need to be able to support the entire spectrum of what's being used in the environment today, right? So this is how we see this, this piece fit together for us. And it really comes down, now that I've got this as a backdrop for my thought process associated with it, well, we're now really starting to see 3 real trends reshaping this whole mobility management or mobile device management into what we're going to call unified endpoint management. First is that about platform convergence, Internet of Things, and identity management, right? We always want to worry about, make sure we got the right people getting access to the right things, right? So platform convergence. So let's talk about some traditional client management systems, right? Usually they involve an agent-based approach, right? For being able to manage these types of devices. Let's see if I can't turn my laser pointer on, right? For being able to manage these types of traditional clients in the market space, right? So I've got these traditional clients sitting out there, and traditional client management systems, right? They've got this down, standardized rinse and repeat process associated with this, right? Updates and things like that. And then we've got the mobile device management guys, right? And this is more of an API-based management technique instead of an agent-based management technique, right? And it's secure, and this is really about the security management of corporate mobile assets and anything else, right? Specialized for over-the-air configuration, don't have to bring it in and do this other stuff, and purpose-built for smartphones and tablets, right? Make no bones about it. This is where this kind of grew up, right? But what we're seeing is under a modern unified endpoint management, I want to be able to manage traditional endpoints and the newer endpoints in the same interface, in the same environment. Because here's what else is what we're starting to see associated with that. The IT team supporting traditional and mobile are also converging associated with that, right? So the guys that are managing mobile today, this is what they're doing, right? Enrollment, management, app management, stores, and automatic updates, right? We want to make sure that our apps and our operating system are all up to date, right? And then the teams that are managing endpoints, right? All right, imaging, right? Oh, I need to re-image this device. Software, hardware inventory, patches and updates, scripts, registry changes, and software distribution associated with it. What we're finding is that they really are combining associated with that. So in your environment, your device management, client management really comes into that one environment called unified endpoint management. And let's be good at both of those. Oh, you know what? I got so excited about being able to help and deliver this piece of content. I didn't even think about you, the folks that were out here listening today. So I do want to make sure we all know that there is a Q&A button on your screen somewhere. If you got a question about any of the stuff I'm talking about here, go ahead and hit that Q&A button. And I think I've got my presentation buddies, Tom and Trish at Flagship, monitoring that. So if I don't see it pop up into the window, I'll be able to take a look at that, right? But see any questions associated with that, pop them in there and we can answer them real time if we need to associated with that, or we'll just make sure we get them at the end as well, right? Sorry, sometimes I forget about the basic housekeeping that goes along with our new normal of webinars all the time type thing. Excuse me, boy, that feels better now. I got a little wet on the whistle, shall we say, right? So we were talking about how they're converging, right? So what's happening then is if those are converging, let's capitalize on some things associated with that. And so I think maybe your organization, like many other organizations out there, let's capitalize on the Internet of Things that are going on out there as well, right? Because we talk about right, we're talking about all these devices. IoT devices are things that need to be managed as well, right? What their configuration is, hardened, associated, whatever it is, right? And so this is some of the traditional ways we see use of it, right? So I want to be able to manage the device that manages an IoT device. We see this quite a bit, right? So I've got maybe a Windows or Linux or an Android device on the front end managing a series of IoT sensors out there, right? And just receiving information back, right? Maybe they're just really SCADA devices and stuff like that. They're pulling information in. Well, I want to make sure I can manage that device that manages those devices, right? I may also want to take a stab at, I want to manage the IoT gateway to cloud or my platform associated with that, right? So if I've got a gateway that's sitting out there, well, I want to make sure that I can manage that gateway associated with it as well. I also want to make sure that I can manage the apps that manage the IoT device, right? So if there's a certain application, right, and that application needs to be updated, or there's a new version of it, or whatever it is associated, I want to manage that app that manages the IoT device. Or the other one is, I want to manage embedded Android, Windows, Linux, Android things, and Windows IoT devices as well, right? Because they are just Android, Windows 10, Linux, or Android things on those IoT devices, right? So if you think about those are just regular devices that I get access to and use associated with that. So we can really capitalize, right? Since we're doing this already, right? We got our remote workforce out there. It's not only just good for our remote workforce and our traditional mobile management, but now I get IoT associated, wearables and IoT associated with this as well, right? And then we cannot forget, I cannot stress enough how important identity management is to this entire thing. And I got to tell you what, if you get in the way, if you cause friction in the way that users ID or get access to devices, you're going to get a rash of crap from your user community because you have violated what they perceive as their experience on those devices. So if you've got a biometric reader on this device, guess what? Maybe single sign-on with touch access as a biometric is a part of it that I want to extend out to my corporate environment as part of this thing, right? I want it to be part of my onboarding and identity federation and self-service, right? I want all of that identity associated with that. But I also want to be able to make this, and there's a guy at IBM, and he'll probably pay me a nickel when he finds out that I used his term again, and that is, I want to be able to also offer very frictionless identity management and access associated with this as well, right? So conditional access to trusted devices. Oh, I see this is a Windows 10 device that you have accessed this particular application 12 times in the past. Nothing has changed as part of your configuration. Guess what? Welcome aboard, start using that application. Versus, hey, something changed, right? Something happened, you've updated something associated. I'm going to ask you for a user ID or password, or maybe a fingerprint to make sure we got this thing, right? So conditional access associated with that. Then the other thing we hear a lot is a lot of organizations saying, hey, I want to be able to do multi-factor authentication associated with this. I would like to be able to have the capability to turn on multi-factor authentication with my devices with a click as part of my platform. So now, and I can't, so shocker, and I can do that with my MaaS360 platform and this thing called Cloud Identity Connect, right? I can turn on cloud multi-factor authentication associated with that and have that be a part of my environment, right? And then I want threat management, right? So I want this thing to be able to understand it, and then interoperability with other ID providers, right? So maybe I'm not going to use IBM's, maybe I'm going to use somebody else's associated with that, or Apple's, or if somebody, right? I want to be able to use theirs as well associated with that. So if it's not mine you want to use, I want to make sure I've got frictionless access to some of the other ones associated with that, right? So what I wanted to do is and I will take it, deviate here a little bit, right? Is I could have went through IBM's total presentation on MaaS360. It's a nice long presentation, talks about the individual features and functions associated with that. Here's what I wanted to do, right? My goal today was really to help you see and understand that IBM has this great unified endpoint management system, that it combines IoT devices, people and applications with some cognitive pieces associated with this. The other thing I really wanted to be able to leave you with today is that under the devices section, we support more devices in their native format and form than any of the other platform sitting out there today, right? So if you wanted to know, hey, is this a cloud platform delivered and all those other things, I will guarantee that get with Tom and his team and we'll set up a full-blown demo where we'll go through all those different functions associated with that. What I really wanted to take a little time and go through is talk about the platforms that we get to support and how we support some of those. I am not going to go through every one of these slides in nauseating detail because I don't think any of us wants to do that. But I really wanted to be able to highlight some things that we see with this, right? So here's the capabilities card. Let's call it a capabilities card instead of a battle card, right? A capabilities card for MaaS360 with Watson for iOS, right? So where's my iPhone, right? So for traditional iPhone type devices, right? This is all the stuff we get to do with it, right? All those things, right, that we see, and so new features of iOS 11, AirPrint features as part of the program associated with this, device-based app assignment. So we've got all these different capabilities, right? And I know that probably one of the questions that probably came up is, oh, Frank, can we get the presentation? Yes, we'll get the presentation. I'll make sure that Tom gets that sent out to you, so you have these pieces of information in it, so you don't have to scribble them down all the time, right? We're going to make sure that we've got them as part of that thing, right? I really want to get to the devices that we support in a Windows type environment. So these are all stuff, right? Yes, we work with Apple's device enrollment program. So out of the box configuration, right? You don't even have to touch it while it's in the box, right? Shared device support for iOS, right? So whether that device is corporate owned or employee owned, right? We'll be able to figure out which one it is, right? And if it's shared between multiple users and all those other things, right? Support all of those functions associated with it. But hey, guess what? MaaS360 for Android, right? Hey, instant support for Oreo, right? We got to have that newest support associated with it. And here's what it looks like for Watson for Android associated with that. Being able to support Android at work as part of this thing. And oh, by the way, we started saying on here, that's part of it. You might see the badge up here called UEM Essentials, Unified Endpoint Management Essentials. So this talks to the second to last slide I'll talk about today is the packaging of how this thing works. So everything we're talking about here from a device support standpoint falls into the essentials category. If it doesn't, it'll say it in that top corner, and there'll be a slide, second to the last slide in this presentation, that talks about essentials versus the other three offerings in this space, right? I just want to move this down to how we do enrollments, right? Being able to support if you're on a Samsung device, and this is a Samsung device, because you know me, I'm a technology pig, so I've got 2 mobile devices plus a laptop plus a tablet, and 2 different types of tablets, right? Because I like to be able to show everything, right? I'm able to, I by myself have 6 devices that I manage as part of my profile, shall we say, right? So, and this one's about Knox, right? So Knox is that encryption and security container that's on part of the Samsung devices, right? So if you got that, right, we're able to support that, right? Motorola capabilities and Windows Phone associated with this thing as well, right? Now, the next 3 slides are the ones that I really want to be able to focus on as part of our discussion today, right? So I hope as part of this, you're like, wow, Frank, we got it covered on traditional mobile and smart devices associated with that. Here we go. So this is what the capabilities chart looks like for Windows 10. Right, so immediately, right, I'm going to be able to gain insight in inventory, device name, username, email, ownership, designation, active sync ID devices, Windows Store apps, manufacturer, Wi-Fi, all that good stuff you would expect, right? Boom, shows right up in the MaaS360 portal environment. We're going to look at the MaaS360 portal environment after we get done with this piece of it, right? It allows me to take action very quickly associated with this, right? I can integrate with active sync. I can configure email settings, right? So if I'm rolling these things out, think about this, I'm rolling out a new Windows 10 Surface Pro to somebody, right? I can configure all their email settings, password policies, send messages, apply patches and application updates from inside of the Unified Endpoint Management platform. Come on, that's got to be a pretty cool piece associated with that. Locate, wipe device, and that wipe device capability is again contingent upon, is it an employee-owned device or a corporate-owned device, right? What I change, refresh, right? So I get to do all of this stuff from a take action. I can place restrictions on it, right? Whether to use the camera, Cortana, location, telemetry, reject, non-store, app inst. I mean, I have a whole capability of stuff that I can let that device do or not do associated with this. And then I can secure the device, the applications on that device, as well as the network access for that device. Right, so I can lock this bad boy down, or I can say, you know what, it's like the Wild West out there, right? So I can enable, disable SD card use, secure the browser or gateways associated, how I'm going to be able to do this thing. I can allow for VPN over mobile data or data roaming, and I can configure VPN associated with this thing as well, right? And then I can enforce compliance, right? Think about this, right? So I can enforce policy changes. One of the things we're going to take a look at when we go to the MaaS360 portal environment is, what do my MDM policies look like? My unified policies look like for a Windows device. We'll take a look at that. And I can say when I publish a new policy, it becomes my device then that is connected to it automatically now has to be able to support that type of policy changes. And then selective or full wipe, lost, or stolen on uncompliant devices, and then restrict manual device decommissioning, right? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that I can do in my environment to be able to support a Windows 10 type device for that. Before we jump into the portal to take a look at some of the buttons you push associated with that, guess what? I can do that if it's not a Windows 10 device, but let's say it's a Windows XP Service Pack 3, Vista, Windows 7, 8 Plus. Guess what? I can do a lot of those same type things, right? I can get some instant hardware insight, right? So I know what the device is. I can enroll this device over the air. I don't have to bring it into the corporate network to be able to do that. I think that's an important consideration for any of these types. I don't want to have to bring it in, plug it into my LAN, right, in my corporate network, because guess what? How many of us get to go back into a corporate network for a while, right? I don't want to ever have to do that again, right? I want to be able to deploy OS patches and latest security, right? So if I take a look at this, one of the actionable insights is, hey, you got a device that needs this patch to cover this CVE for this application, right? I'll get that as part of my portal and be able to take action and deploy an OS patch or an application patch to this thing. I can distribute software. I can send messages, wipe the entire device associated with that, right? So that's just for, say, if it's not a Windows 10 device, just a Windows device, all the Windows devices we support. And then you might be saying to yourself, what else do we support? What other devices could we possibly support as part of that? Well, let's not forget, I got some folks that may be using their Mac OS out there, right? So if you're using a Mac OS device with High Sierra, which I think is the latest version associated with that, guess what? Same type things. Instant insight into the device itself. I can take immediate actions associated with this. I can distribute apps. I can set security policies and restrict users associated with it as well, right? So if you think about the number of end user devices, not smart devices, but traditional laptops, Surface Pros, and things like that, I get to be able to support a pretty wide spectrum of devices. And think about this. So now I can associate Frank Welder with his 2 phones and his 3 Windows devices. I don't have any Mac devices on mine, right? All show up in the same thing. So Frank Welder's associated with them and who owns them and different things associated with that, right? I think the last slide I've got for this one is, oh yeah, still can't forget our BlackBerry folks, right? Still can't forget our BlackBerry folks associated with that. So I'm going to take a second here. I'm going to check the chat and see if anybody's the Q&A. No Q&A associated with that. Okay. I am going to pop into my, hopefully, my MaaS360 environment just to give you a look at it. And I'm going to actually put it over on this monitor. Hopefully everybody can see that. Shows up okay. If you're the IBM guys looking at my dismal dashboard for MaaS360, first and foremost, thank you so much for the NFR account so I can do the demos and things associated with that. And please don't be mad at me because I haven't got a lot of stuff in there yet. Still working on that one, work in process associated with that, right? But I wanted to do a full-blown one today where I was going to create a on my laptop that I'm doing the demo with. I was going to create a oh, thank you so much, right? I was going to create a Windows virtual machine and then enroll it into the system to be able to get use associated with this, right? To show it off. Well, lo and behold, I had my environment decided, right? Like all demo environments do as part of this thing. My gateway that connected to my Active Directory decided it was going to be a bit persnickety this morning and wouldn't allow me to do it. So I'm not able to show off adopting this device in, right? But adoption is one of those things. I can send you a text message, I can send you an email with a QR code, or just I can send you a URL to adopt over the air this device into the environment, right? And I'll learn all about it, right? But I just want to take an example here, right? So I've got my user, Frank Welder, right? So I'm looking over here, right? There's my user, Frank Welder, and I'm just going to do an add device, right? As an example to show you how I could add a device here, right? So I want to notify the user, Frank Welder, and then copy, all right, associated with this. And if I do nothing else, this is all I'd have to do. But I'm going to just shift over to the advanced side, and I'm going to say, you know what? This is a Windows device that Frank is going to be connecting on, and I'm going to select the policy. So I've already created a default Windows policy for being able to manage it. And after we do this, we'll show you what it looks like. I can also then send a compliance rule set. So my compliance rule set says what password length, password change, all other stuff associated with that. And I've got a compliance rule set called what stuff do I need to have associated with that. And since this is a employee-owned device, I'm going to say employee-owned device, right? And if I hit send request, enter your password, right? I'm going to have to go to my password manager. Hold on a second here. Where's my true key at? It's not up, right? But trust me, if I'd entered the right password, it would have sent it off and associated with it, right? So that's what it would have looked like. I'd have gotten an email that said, click here to enroll your device, and away we go, right? And then it would have access to it. And it would then show up very quickly into my devices section, right? So you didn't say I don't have any devices here today. Really wanted to be able to show that off associated with that, right? But that is how I can register. Now, there are capabilities to do bulk enrollments associated with that, just reading right out of Active Directory to send it to every device, all those types of things, right, all exist. And if we get to the point of you guys saying, hey, could you show me what that looks like in a demo? Absolutely, right? I've got a couple of great guys on the IBM side that've got this set up with the gateways in place and things like to be able to show off and demo that as part of that thing. But the last thing I want to be able to show as part of this thing is the settings section. Right, I think that's where I hid this thing at. Right, so. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I want to go to policies, my policy. Remember I talked about that I've got a standard default Windows policy associated with that. Let's take a look at that Windows policy, right? So I've got one for iOS. I've got one for Workplace, right? All right, so I'm just going to view this, right? Because this is really interesting. You know, we talked about that capabilities chart, right, of what you could do associated with this. So you can configure password policies, how you're going to be able to do security associated with that. And I think it's interesting here on the side is it'll tell us which devices to apply this policy to, right? If there's a difference between a phone and a Windows platform versus a Windows 10 versus a Windows 8 Plus platform, it'll tell us which ones I want to apply this to, right? And so it'll be device security, device encryption, so if you're using BitLocker, if you're using device security, right, copy and paste, authentication, cryptograph, app security, right? All those different things associated with it. It'll also let me do what restrictions I want, right? So this is my default policy that I've put for my Windows environment. Application compliance, native app, Wi-Fi, if I'm going to configure VPN associated with that. So the whole goal I want to be able to show very quickly as part of this, and I promise you, you guys say, Frank and Tom, let's go ahead and do the full-blown demo with this thing. We will knock it out of the park and show you from device creation all the way to deletion, right, or removal from the system. How the cloud-based platform really helps and makes this thing work associated with that. And that was it, right? I didn't want to go into the full let's push all the buttons type thing associated with that. I really wanted to leave you with the look at all the things that we can really support, all the capabilities from those traditional endpoints we can support, not just the smartphones and smart devices with this thing as well, right? So we're going to land this plane here in just a couple of minutes here. So this is what we think sets MaaS360 apart in our type of environment, right? Is we really do believe that it is a complete unified endpoint management system. Mobile devices, laptops, internets of things, wearable devices associated with this, right? Hands down, covered associated with that. Numbers of operating systems, options, a whole 9 yards, right? Best in class cloud, right? This is a SaaS solution sitting out there in IBM cloud. You don't have to worry about DevOps, DevSecOps associated with this. This is, let's get started. And what this helps us do is you can focus on managing your unified endpoint instead of living and caring about that environment, right? That's taken care of for us, right? For that trusted platform. Open platform. There's integrations associated with it. We didn't even really talk about all the integrations, right? The different gateways, access into Active Directory or Azure associated with it, or LDAP-based things, in other implementations, right? So being able to integrate into other leading IT systems, got it covered here. User interfaces, and I think this is an important one we didn't have time in the world to be able to talk about. When I start managing your devices, whether it's this device or the laptop or whatever it is, I don't want to change the paradigm of the user interface. You picked this for a reason. You picked Mac for a reason. You picked Windows for a reason associated with it. I don't want to get in the way of that. I want to be smooth associated with the same interfaces associated with that. And it really is, right? Everybody says this, but I got to tell you what, dedicated to your success, right? 24/7, 365, worldwide data centers for being able to support this type of environment, right? We've got that piece associated with us. So when we talk about that delivery model, because it's going to be a cloud-based delivery model, whether it's IBM 290, 300,000, I forget the number of users that they're supporting associated with that, or it's going to be Frank's Muffler Shop and his 10 users and 40 devices associated with this, right? Best in class delivery model. Fast deployment, right? Add device, add users, click the enrollment way and go. Effortless scalability. Oh, you bought another company? Here we go, right? Let's include them. Automatic upgrades, right? DevOps is taking care of you, as well as cloud security, right? IBM's got a pretty good track record on being able to have some great cloud expertise associated with that. So our goal here is do more than manage your endpoints. Really transform this part of the business. This is a really unique opportunity if you to be able to dive into this, right? Yes, okay. All of a sudden shut down and everybody became a remote employee. Well, we see that as, yeah, some work had to happen associated with that. We think this is an opportunity to really be able to take a look at this and say, can I do this differently, right? I'll use this example of, other than Texas and a couple other states, we didn't have drive-through liquor stores, right? Well, now I'm sitting here in Chattanooga, I can call ahead and have them bring liquor right out to my car, right? We got a new norm associated with this. Well, this is a new opportunity for us to be able to do this as well. And the last thing I want to be able to, because this will be delivered as part of the presentation deck, is these are the different editions we were talking about for being able to, and these are list prices associated with it. I'm sure there's discounts and all that other sales motions that go along with this. But everything we were talking about today still falls within inside the essentials package associated with that. So think about it. $4 per device per month for being able to be managed. Application updates, content updates, operating system, policies, the whole 9 yards associated with that. And then there's the $8 per user. I fall into the category of $8 per user because I have 6 devices, right? So it's only $8 for Frank Welder versus 4 times 6 for Frank Welder, right? And we'll talk about this a lot more. I just wanted to make sure it got delivered as part of our session today. So with that, hey, Tom, plane has landed. I'm going to turn it back over to you. I don't have a great picture of us together like that, so well, this won't have to do for us.
Okay,
thanks so much.
Thank you, Frank. I do not see any Q&As out there at this point, so we'll just move on with the offer. Let me make sure that my screen is being shared. Can you see my screen? No.
Not yet. There we go.
Okay. So Q&As, I know everybody is muted. If you do have a question, if you could just stick it up there in the Q&A, and then we'll turn on your mic and you can ask it. But I know we're running out of time here, so I'm going to just jump right to the offer here that we have. So there's 2 offers that we have today. One is a security risk assessment. And we're offering this. It's complimentary. If you're looking to validate your current security posture, no matter the aspect of security and no matter the facet, please contact me personally or Flagship. You can see the registration there at the bottom of this slide, and have us get involved in doing a security assessment. Again, complimentary, and we would love to assess that for you and then work on recommendations and next steps for you. The second offer that we have is a security solution based, basically what Frank was talking about, a 90-day, no charge, sandbox, go play, and see if this meets your needs, both with MaaS360 and cloud identity. So really cool stuff. 3 months of access to look at that. In addition to that, another thing that I will offer is to bring one of our technicians, get them involved with you as you're installing this and configuring it and trying it. We would like to work alongside you and help you with the configuration of this. Much of it is pretty self-explanatory, but as you can imagine, getting into installing some of these things and getting into different environments may pose some challenges, and we would like to be right there with you to help you out with that, along with one of our technicians to help you do that. So there are the offers to this. Another thing I would like to mention is part 2 of our security series, which will occur next week. We'll be sending out reminders and invites. I know that some of you have already signed up for it. That's great. But we will be talking about increasing your security posture. And no other than Frank Welder will join us again. I think I have you blocked for that, Frank. So Frank will be one of the presenters there, and we'll just get right into it in the next session. I don't think there's any other. I don't think there are any questions. I can't see any questions out there. With that, we'll conclude right here at the top of the hour. Again, connect with us. There's my name, my contact information there. Please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll get you in touch with the right people at Flagship, at IBM, at Tech Data to help you with what your needs are. With that, have a very safe week. Hope everybody remains healthy, and we will talk next week. Thank you very much.